welcome to worship with First United Church of Oak Park. Our church family is a union church of two Reformed Christian denominations, the Presbyterian Church USA and the United Church of Christ. We are an open and affirming, more light congregation, meaning whoever you are, however you identify, whoever you love, and however you look, we see you and affirm you as a beloved child of God, just the way you are. And whether you worship with us every Sunday, this is your first time joining us, or you're somewhere in between, we are so glad that you found your way here with us for worship. Please take a moment to locate the link to our virtual pew pad in the video description. This link will take you to a Google form that will give you a place to let us know you're here, share any prayers that are on your heart or your mind, and offers an opportunity to ask any questions you may have about our church community. We will look forward to connecting with you if you are seeking more information. As you may have noticed, this is not a live streamed service from our sanctuary. It is a pre-recorded YouTube premiere service. During the summer months, we like to take advantage of the nice weather when it happens and worship outside a few times. So it serves as a reminder to us when we do that worship can happen anywhere, and it's an opportunity to bask in the beauty of God's creation. This Sunday is the last of our planned outdoor worship services this summer. We hope that you have found these online pre-recorded services meaningful and enjoyed them and found them to be a wonderful worship experience for you. And we will look forward to being back together regularly live streaming from our sanctuary next Sunday. Let us continue in a spirit of humble praise and worship.
Let all things go living a song of thanksgiving to God our Creator, triumphantly raised, who fashioned and made us, protected and stayed us, by guiding us unto the end of our days. God's banners are o'er us, your light goes before us, a pillar of fire shining forth in the night, till shadows have vanished, all fearfulness banished, as forward we travel from light into
Would you please join me in a posture of prayer? Gracious God, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us bring love. Where there is injury, healing. Where there is doubt, solitude. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is fear, faith. Where there is sadness, joy. Abba, grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in forgiving that we are forgiven. And it is in loving that we are loved. God, in your mercy, hear our prayers. Friends, hear and know the good news of the gospel. You are claimed as God's beloved now and forevermore. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, my love is stronger than your fear. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, and I have promised to be always near. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, my love is stronger than your fear. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, and I have promised to be always near. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, my love is stronger than your fear. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, and I have promised to be always near. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, my love is stronger than your fear. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, and I have promised to be always near.
what our own Franciscan tradition saw, especially the great theologian philosopher St. Bonaventure, who was building on Francis, saw, was that the end had to be the same as the beginning. Alpha and Omega had to be the same thing. How it starts is where it has to return. He said his whole theology was emanation, everything emanates from God, exemplification, everything exemplifies God, and consummation, everything returns to God. Right? Now that's a coherent universe. That's a benevolent universe where God really wins, where God really is victorious. But if you don't have that kind of coherence, if you don't have that kind of joy or optimism at the foundation, God created it and it was good, which is said 6 times in a row. God created it and it was good, 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 and it was good. And we came along. I'm not trying to be anti-Protestant, but Luther says we're a pile of manure and Christ is the snow that covers the manure. Now, Luther was a spiritual genius, but his anthropology was terrible, terrible, you know? If you're basically a pile of manure, how do you redeem that? Grace is not inherent to the universe.
You grow flowers.
Yeah. In Franciscan theology, which I think is very biblical theology, starting with Genesis 1:2, the Spirit is hovering over the chaos and turning it into light. Right? It's good from the beginning. Our starting point is not original sin, a phrase created 4 centuries later by Augustine, but in fact is original blessing, as Matthew Fox so wisely said years ago. So we're working hard to get back to the original blessing. See, if you start with no, if you start with negation, accusation, judgment, and again, watch your own mind. If you start the conversation with an immediate dismissal of a person or an idea, you start with no, it's almost impossible to get back to yes. It is. In fact, they now have evidence. Now, again, I'm going to show my weak science. But do you know when you have a strong, angry, or negative reaction, we can now prove that hormones are released in your body, and it probably takes 4 to 6 hours for you to return to homeostasis. That's why, you had a fight with your wife at 7 o'clock. You're still negative at 9 o'clock. You are. And you wonder why you are. We now have physiological evidence for that. You're inside of another force field and you wonder why you're so negative. You can't afford to do that. Well, when you start with no, you start with the universe is a great big reward-punishment system, and God, by the criteria of most of our churches, let's be honest, 99.2% of everything God has created since the beginning of time is damned to hell.
Our God is
Our God is an awesome God. Yeah, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's over. And I'm a Christian, but I've been graced to be in touch with the mystical Christian tradition, the Franciscan tradition, the philosophical and theological tradition, which never went there. But unfortunately, the mass-produced fast food Christianity that most of us were given in our corner churches was of that fast food variety. A quick reward-punishment explanation. Emphasizing the punishment, by the way. That was supposed to motivate us. Do you know the reason you have no notion of hell in Paul's writings, which is shocking for most people to discover? He might have some indirect phrases that could be construed that way, but he never uses the word hell at all. Is because the way the first generation was motivated, you see this in Thessalonians in particular, is they were immediately expecting the return of Christ. That's going to motivate. The game's almost over, so let's just live this life with the few years we have remaining. After the failure of Jesus to return in that first generation, preachers needed something else to motivate the boys, you know. Well, there's no better motivation if you're fathers, you understand this, than a little threat from daddy. Threaten the boys and they'll get whipped into shape. And so we've wasted, hundreds of years preaching fire and brimstone, which made people not love God, but fear God. That's what I mean by starting with no. Now you start with yes, the announcement of a benevolent universe. God created it and it was good. Your core is not bad, it's good. Now you got something to go back to. You got something to fall into. Now our word for that was the soul. The soul is that part of you that knows who it is, that inherently, intuitively, instinctively knows, I'm God's boy. I'm God's daughter. I'm a beloved son. I'm a beloved woman. When you always have that as home base, I'm going to say it, you're basically indestructible. All you have to do is keep teaching people to go back to home base. But what we have now is the home base is lethal. So I can't tell you to go inside. I can't tell you to pray quietly. I mean, a lot of evangelicals call prayer quiet diabolical. Well, I can see why. Because if you really go inside, you're going to discover, I don't really love God. In fact, there's a part of me that doesn't even like God. And I've had people say that right in front of me, that I've never had the courage to say this, but God, as God has been presented to me, is not likable. The only reason I joined is because I felt I had no choice, But would I want to spend a night of quiet, as Jesus did when he goes into the desert alone? Most Christians are scared to death. Did you read that study recently? Now let me remember it right. I so often don't. That they gave a group of men and women a choice between an hour of total quiet and solitude and being shocked, with not a shock that would kill them, but it would, be uncomfortable. If I remember the numbers right, 66 to 68% of the men said, I'll take the shock. Yes, I'll take the shock, rather than be 1 hour alone with my own thoughts and silence. It was 50-some% of women. A higher percentage of women could imagine it. But does this tell you the state of the male? I don't want to go inside, because if I really go to the bottom, I don't think I'm going to like what I find there. You see, most of your wounds, most of your real operative theology is hidden in the unconscious. It's operative without being really brought to the conscious level. Now, what you're doing in contemplation is unloading all of that, bringing it up for observation. Not hatred, not judgment, just observation. Look at that. I realize I'm actually pretty angry at God, if I'd be honest. Now, where does that come from? Now, maybe you got to then go a little deeper to find out, oh my gosh, I always thought that God was masculine. My dad was a rageaholic. My dad was a violent man. I transferred my God image to my father, or the other way around. Now, that's big stuff, you understand? But we better be honest and start dealing with that, because it doesn't go away. It's still operative in a high percentage of our lives.
God of the sparrow, God of the whale, God of the swirling stars, how does the creature say, ah? creatures say praise. God of the earthquake, God of the storm, God of the trumpet blast. How does the creature cry, woe? How does the creature cry, save? God of the rainbow, God of the cross, God of the empty grave. How does the creature say grace? How does the creature say thanks? God of the hungry, God of the sick, God of the prodigal. How does the creature say care? How does the creature say life?
It is a great gift of community that we are able to pray for one another, to reach out in spirit to God on behalf of another with love and care. This connects us with one another. To make the joys of another our own joy. This expands joy and lifts our spirits. What a gift. To make the concerns of another of equal concern to our own. This is a gift too, for somehow it eases our burdens to share the burden of another. What a gift. Most loving God, you who have called us into being, you who have blessed us with community, we are grateful to be with you side by side in spirit. We are grateful that you have heard our prayers, and we are grateful that we may always pray and pray rightly in your sight, that prayer which your Son taught us to pray, our Creator, our Mother, our Father, who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
In the Gospel of Luke, there's a description of what it feels like when we give, the way that it seems that blessings come back to us, the way it feels like blessings multiply when they are shared. And I love the way it's described. It says, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, it will be poured into your lap. The measure you give is the measure you get back. I just love the way it's stated there in Luke. It feels like that when we give out of our blessings. It feels like they get multiplied. It feels like they get pressed down, shaken together, and they just run over. So today, let's give. Let's experience those blessings.
You made this world, you made this world, You made this world. Thank you, thank you. You gave me life. You gave me life. You gave me life. Thank you, thank you. You brought this peace, you brought this peace, you brought this peace. You sowed these seeds, you sowed these seeds, you sowed these seeds. Thank you. Your love is everywhere. Your love is everywhere. Open me, open me. Your love is everywhere. Your love is everywhere. Open me, open me, open me. Me warm, you kept me warm, you kept me warm. When I was in the wasteland, when I was in the wars, when I was all alone. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Your love is everywhere. Your love is everywhere. Open me, open me, open. Your love is everywhere. Your love is everywhere. Your love is everywhere. Open me, open your love, love. Oh, your love. Oh, open me, yeah. Now let it come through, let it come through me now. Let it come through me. Let it come through me. Let your love, love
Everywhere, everywhere.
Your love is everywhere. Open me, open me, open. Your love is everywhere. Your love is everywhere. Oh, you're everywhere. Open me, open me, open me. Open me, oh yeah. Open me, yeah. You made this world, you made this world, you made this world. Thank you, thank you.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of God's unchanging love. Here I raise my Ebenezer, precious blood. Oh, to grace, the greater debtor, daily unconstrained to be. Let that grace now, like a fetter, bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it for thy courts above.
Children of the living God, may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you, and may God lift up the light of a loving countenance upon you, this day and every day of your life. Amen.